Hi, everyone. It's Lindsay Mellenburn here, and I am so excited about today's podcast. You may see that our set is looking a little bit different as we are adapting with everything happening with the coronavirus. And so I am excited to have Miss Liz Illig here to join in on the conversation. Liz, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Some of you may be familiar with Liz. She is featured within our Resources for Growth publication. She is a small business consultant, and she also really focuses more so on the messaging side of the business. And so today we're going to really focus on how she can be a resource and how she can help set up businesses for success here in the next couple of weeks or, here in 2020. So Liz, would you mind just sharing a little bit more about your background and how you got into this consulting role?
Yes. So I went to ASU for my undergrad, and then I got my master's in educational leadership through NAU. And during that time, I had a pet sitting business as a small little hobby, just kind of getting me through college. And I worked corporate jobs and everything. In 2013, I was working a corporate job in a cubicle, and I'm like, I literally just can't do this anymore. I've got to figure something out. Like, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I literally went home and Googled one night other pet industries that were for sale. And I came across a pet grooming location, small mom and pop. It was open, for 35 years. It had 2 owners, very small, like 450 square feet. And I'm like, hey, this would be really a complementary business to purchase because I already had a lot of pet sitting clients in the Arcadia area, and this shop was on Bethany Home and 16th Street. And I tell people I had no business buying a business. I was in severe debt. I had no money. I put myself through my undergrad and my master's, but I was like determined to make it happen. So during my lunch hour at my corporate job, I went bank to bank. I went to 7 banks, and one ended up saying, we can give you a loan. I'm like, great. They're like, well, it's a line of credit. I'm like, great. I'm like, how soon can you fund? And they're like, we can fund the next day. So I ended up getting a line of credit, which was actually a huge, high interest rate. But I was determined. I was like, if I can do this, I can do this. So I had already signed the contract before even knowing I had the money. I was $4,000 short from the asking price from what I got from the loan. So I called my dad, and I'm originally from Iowa, and I'm like, I just need $4,000. And he's a farmer, so he's like, this is probably not a good idea. Like, you don't know how to groom a dog. You don't know anything. I'm like, no, I can just do it. Like, I love people. So a few days later, he gave me a check in the mail for $4,000 and said, pay me back when you're a success. So I had all my money, and I was about 25 years old, and I had keys in hand, and I had bought my first grooming shop. And I became the operation. So I was the closer, I was the marketing, I was the human resource. As a small business owner, I was the business. The only thing that I wasn't was the groomer. So I started small, and I started having 1 groomer and then 2 groomers, and then I started marketing and advertising, and I needed to, have more staff. So then I expanded my storefront to 1,000 square foot. And I really tell people that was the point where I was like the living, breathing person of this business. But I'm like, I think I'm ready to expand into a second location. And I tell people that's really when my nightmare occurred, because I felt like I had everything in place to open another storefront. But I was super wrong. I expanded, quickly, but I did not train my people on what I knew, what my secret sauce was in my head based on knowledge. And with that, I started getting question after question from my employees. How do we refund a client? What do we do here? How do we run the schedules? How do we run our CRM system? All the, any question that any new hire would ask in order for them to do the job. So I took that 1 full year in 2016, and I started writing down every question that somebody asked me within my company, and I wrote the answer to it. And little did I know, I actually started creating my standard operating procedure for my business, and I didn't even know that I was doing it. I'm a very type A personality. I'm a process-driven person. I follow direction. I don't like to break the law. I'm very just like, here's the rules, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it also allows you to take people through an experience of how you want them to actually interact in your business. And that's really one thing that people don't understand, is that you want to put your employees through an experience of how they can grab information to be a better person, and that's also allowing you to empower them. So really it took me a full year, and I created like a standard operating procedure, and it became so easy. I was like, well, I'll just open another storefront. So today, in 2020, I have 5 pet grooming locations. They all run on their own. I have great team members. I have about 35, 40 employees all given, 5 storefronts. They run on their own. They, people have been with me for years, and it's just a beautiful thing to see that something can grow and blossom from something I built even 7 years ago. But I created that foundation. I created the policies. I created the systems. I've created really my voice. And when people started seeing me grow, and they were like, can you come and talk about how you took this huge risk? Because I did take a huge risk. I had a ton of debt. I ended up paying it off before I bought my second location. So there was all these really cool things that took place. So I started publicly speaking about taking risk and going for it and doing it. But the one thing people kept asking me after, they would come up to me after and say, well, how did you do it? And I went home to my husband that night, and I said, here's the thing. I'm publicly speaking at all these events, and people keep asking me how I can help them do what I've done. And he's like, and I'm like, I just don't know what I've done. I couldn't pinpoint the thing that made me thrive. And he goes, you've created systems in your business. And it was like this boom thing, it just went off, and I was like, whoa. I was like, that's what I can help people do. So really organically, the consulting business came about because that is what I did in 2016 for a whole year. 2017, I bought 2 more additional grooming shops, and it just started growing based on systems. So once I was like, I'm a system person, that's really when people were like, help me build systems. So, I always tell people I create standard operating procedures. I create training and hiring processes. What's your sales process, for getting clients? What's your onboarding process? We're not creating training manuals. I work with other HR people to do those things, but we create the processes and the experience to bring a client in. So I specialize in internal and external communication. And what I mean by that is internally, it's your messaging, it's your SOPs, it's your processes, it's your systems. But then externally, it's your messaging. What message are you giving to your audience, your potential client on your website? So I'm playing these two buckets of what the one business owner's voice is for both sides. Because really, they all need to be treated equally, right? Like a client pays us and increases our revenue, but our people make it work. And I think a lot of people are always like, let's focus on the client. And I'm saying, no, we need to focus on the employee or the team member so that they work really hand in hand with one another. So that's where the consulting ended up starting. And now it's just blossomed into a lot of other things.
And that's honestly what made me so excited when I first met you, because you are so focused on your people. That's definitely in alignment with A to Z BizLink, our organization. And we continue to help organizations here in town really think through the people process. So as you have helped so many different organizations here in the community with creating those, game plans to put in place, I'm curious, what kind of companies are they? Is it only those individuals in the retail space, or what kind of businesses?
It's a wide range. You have insurance, agencies, a lot of businesses that push paper around, right? And being able to look at those companies and streamline those processes, wealth management, Of course, I work with a lot of people in the pet industry because I live it. So people are like, okay, I want to do exactly what you've done, and we can clone that. And I'll share anything I need to share, to help somebody be successful. But it's a wide range. It's preschools, it's early childhood education, really any business that really wants to focus on their operations, but also their client messaging and how they're actually showing up.
Now that more people are at home, a lot of us are forced to be at home. When that's happening, we have a little bit more time to focus on working on our business rather than in our business. So especially now over the next, hopefully only 30 days, during this course of time, if you were in an entrepreneur or business owner's shoes, what would you encourage them to focus on?
Yeah, I love this question. So if I had 30 days, what I would really be focusing are two areas. And the first area is we're going to have a lot of hiring happening if we've ended up having to lay people off, and maybe those people are going to decide to go somewhere else or do something different. So we really need to look at what does our hiring process look like, and how can you make your process so amazing that people are like knocking on your door to work for you. Really start looking at like, what is your hiring and training process? Work on that now in the next 30 days. So it's literally turnkey. The minute the governor says you're back in business, you have your ideal person you want to hire. You have the template, you have the job, you have everything ready, and you know which systems you're going to use, whether it be, Indeed or Jazz HR. There's just so many options. Research what is going to work for you based on your platform, but really start building what the ideal workforce is. And a lot of people are saying, I've laid off some people that maybe haven't been great employees. You now have an opportunity based on what you have done, given your situation, to get different. So find out really who that person is and who you want to be working for you, and make sure that you're ready to train them, right? And that really goes into like standard operating procedures. How do you convey your message clearly? The other thing is that we really need to be working on our client funnels. How do we communicate with our clients? What is your client love process? So the minute May 1st comes around and you get a new client, how can you make sure you never lose that client again? What kind of experience can you put them in from whether it's 100 days to 365 days? How are you going to keep that relationship building so that we don't end up losing that client? And I would also say that if you don't have as many clients coming in the door right now, that you continue to communicate with your client during this really interesting phase. Right?
And to that point, I'm curious, what has been your suggested communication strategy? Because I feel like a lot of businesses are sending out a lot of content, probably more so than they usually do. What content is worthwhile to clients or consumers at this point in time?
Yeah, I really think social media, right? There's so many people living on social media more than they ever have. So really creating your message there, because what I'm seeing, and I don't know about you, but I'm hearing from companies I did business with like 7 years ago, and I haven't heard from them since 7 years ago. And now they're in my inbox. It's weird. It's like, why now, right? And it's really like, as me, the consumer, I'm like, where have you been, right? Why haven't you continued to educate me? Why didn't you fill my cup for the things I needed based on the product or the service you were selling? And why am I hearing from you now? So I think we also need to be cautious of like what we are sending out if we haven't been sending it out. So it seems kind of strange.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I'm curious about technology, right? Let's say we are going to have to ramp up our businesses again, because unfortunately we did have to lay a couple people off. We're only one human, and there's only so much one of us can do in a given day. And so thinking through automation or how to streamline processes is important. So of technology platforms you've used, which ones would you really encourage business owners to look into?
Yeah, so for standard operating procedures, there's a few different platforms. There's Trainial. It's actually a Scottsdale-based business, and it's very large. And it's great because you can actually put all of your content that you want to train somebody, and it actually will show you as the owner how much training they've actually done. So it'll give you a measure if they've completed all of their modules. There you also have like Thinkific, where you can actually do videos and also content in there. So those are the two like actual training. If you're just wanting to like have an SOP and have your information that is consistent all the time in your business, if you have a G Suite platform, you can use Google Sites. It's free, or it comes with your suite if you're already paying. And it's an amazing tool because it becomes a living, breathing document. And you can go in there and change what your protocols are or what your policies are. And then you can also grant access to whoever your people are.
Oh, those are all great.
But I also think too, when you look at your processes and procedures, what people need to be thinking about when they ramp back up is, are you easy to do business with? And I know that sounds like harsh, and that's, but when I work with my clients, that's the first thing I ask them when I'm looking at their external communication. If I go to your website right now, do I know what you do? And how easy is it for me to work with you? And if you can't say that you can click a button that says book now, if you're in the service industry, you have a problem. A lot of people don't want to call anymore. So what kind of automation and system that can be linked to a CRM system so that automatically looks at a calendar and books? There's all these things that we really should start be thinking about during this time to make sure that we are ready to really ramp up. And there's so many systems and technology out there. It's even me as a system person, it's hard for me to even keep up with the integrations of really, you can find a solution for anything you want to do.
Are there any specific websites or blogs that you often reference that kind of help to introduce you to new platforms?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I keep up with a bunch of freebies on my website. If you go to lizillig.com, I have a list of amazing just platforms that I love and that I actually endorse and actually use with, and I integrate a lot of them into the processes that I build for clients. So I would definitely check that out. I also Google like 2020 platforms, Google that, and there's some great blogs that will show you what can integrate. Like even look at like Zapier, you can use that and it can integrate in between, but it's really having that knowledge base of being able to say like, I want it to do this. And that's where we specialize, and we look at it and say, okay, here's the full picture. Can we take rid of two processes and streamline it with technology?
Yeah, very helpful.
Where we have to be focusing, because we might not have the bandwidth we're used to.
We've touched on the onboarding process, but I'm curious, what really cool or innovative ideas have you heard of or either implemented yourself that have really, set up a company up for success with the onboarding process or made them stand out from other competitors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of when I work with my clients, I actually make them have like the interview process short, but also long. And what I mean by that is you make a quick decision to actually probably hire somebody, but bring them on a test day. I always say a test day, and make them fall in love with your company because you have it so set up that a lot of times when we train people, we're like, hey, what else do you need to know? Well, people don't know what they don't know, right? Like you need to have an actual training outline of here's what you're going to learn in day one, because it's important to me as the business owner for you to know that. Day two, we're going to take you on this experience. And really what I have to say is put people through an experience. Like let them know that you care about them so much that you are going to empower them with so much goodness that you work so hard on in your business. They literally like have no other option but to work for you because they're so excited. It's really creating like your voice for your business and for your employees. And the more information that you can give them in the correct manner, the more loyal they will actually be.
Now let's talk about culture, because I can tell that's something that really excites you. What are some key elements to developing a thriving company culture?
Yeah, I would definitely say the employee love. And once again, you map it out just like you would your customers. Put people in 100-day funnel of what they need to learn about you. Whether your company, whether you are the CEO and you do 5 videos that are going to hit their inbox over 100 days just to learn more about you. I also think too, a personal message from small business owners. Like, I'm not at my storefronts all the time, but I am constantly feeding into my people, right? Like, they're the ones that are working the front line and working so hard. Personalized messages, and that can be part of your process. For after 45 days, you send them, a local coffee gift card close to, your location. So, like, just make them feel so much a part of your business. I also think too, I'm a huge supporter of like ongoing training. So having training every single month. You also have to think about when you hire somebody on after a year, sometimes people get comfortable. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. But I always tell people, keep educating on 12 things that really, really matter to you in your business. Identify 12 things, one per month, that you are going to ingrain in your people and empower them all the time. Because a lot of us have staff meetings, and then we get to the staff meeting, we're like, yeah, how are things going with you? Oh, they're good. Okay. Like, and then everybody walks away and they're like, that was 30 minutes that I could have been like actually working on work, and that was a waste of time. But come with something. Come prepared to deliver your message, for your company, which I think is really important. But I also think, when you're onboard team members for your culture, I do videos so people can get to know me, so I'm not constantly having to like repeat myself at the storefront. But then you get them into the culture. Tell them why you started your business, why you're in business, how you treat your clients. Like, amp them with so much information, because the more information they know about you and just being real and authentic, they're going to love you for that.
Absolutely. Liz, I so appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. For those individuals that want to know a little bit more about you and the services that you can provide on the consulting side, how can people find you?
Yes, my website is lizillg.com, LIZILLG.com. I do a 20 free discovery call just to, some people like to strategize for 20 minutes or just talk business to business, how we can help each other out. I'm more than happy to do that. And I also live on Instagram, so that's a great resource too, liz.illig on Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Liz. Really appreciate everything that you're doing in our community.
Thanks for having me.